All right, so we're going to go through our recognitions. Eric will be here at 9 o'clock, followed by Sasha, who's going to go through some platform engineering steps. And then Brian's going to set us up with a MCP server for local development, which I think will be useful for many of us. So let's go over what we've accomplished. We've done a lot, folks. We've actually gotten a lot done this year. First, if I summarize what we did in 2025, I would say we really continue to expand our role within the CD Foundation. We did community programs for education. We did our workforce readiness, I called it, and we did more in securing the supply chain practice than I really thought. So we first started out the year in January. January, February, March, actually, we did two webinars on what we need to do as job seekers in the new economy and how things have changed in our industry. If you haven't seen them, I highly recommend doing so. The first one was probably the best, but the second one was a good follow-up because I had two recruiters who kind of confirmed what we learned from Darren in the first one. And we do have you can visit the job seekers playlist to see both of them, and there is a blog out on the site. Sasha was elected to the CDF. Sasha, you want to take a minute to tell us about what that experience has been like?
Yeah, it's been really cool to be on the CDF. Um, I felt like that role was kind of like it was to keep doing things within Ortelius was contributing to that, right, as much as possible. I think it was also a hard year for the CDF because of funding and trying to transition the gap between CI/CD and platform engineering and AI. I think those things, traditional CI/CD, I think is going to be I mean, I'm seeing it all the time now as AI/CD. It's not CI/CD anymore. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be, I think the CDF is going to have to pivot, right, in a different direction when it comes to CI/CD as it's traditionally known. Yeah, but it was really cool to be on there and to be a part of the board meetings. Yeah. And to represent Ortelius, because Ortelius is everywhere. There's always someone from Ortelius somewhere, which is cool. Yeah.
So how do you think they should pivot?
I don't know. I think it's really difficult because I mean, like I know like Jenkins is a strong contributor to the CDF, right? And with AI coming in and with like platform engineering, where you have these orchestrators where you don't need a CI/CD tool, traditional understanding of a CI/CD tool anymore. It does it for you, right? It you push, it controls it all for you from that backend set of APIs, which I'm going to show you today. And
Right.
yeah, so I don't know how the CDF transitions from CI/CD to AI/CD. It's going to be
Or
interesting,
even
right?
from CD to platform engineering.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that, to be honest, because it's very much, I feel like the traditional CI/CD, how we used to do things, right? Build a pipeline in a dedicated tool, whereas those tools are starting to become very blurred, you know,
Yeah. No, I think I
because
have
you're,
I think I would
yeah,
agree with all those statements. I have seen I feel like I just feel like
felt a bit, I actually struggled a bit, to be
we're not as
honest.
relevant as we need to be.
Yeah, I struggled a bit because I didn't know how to contribute in a way, actually, because I'm like working on a platform. I'm doing, well, I wasn't really doing platform engineering purely at my current client. I was actually doing JavaScript development
No, I get it.
because that's what the client needed, right? I wasn't doing platform engineering, but every time I joined the CDF, I was kind of a bit like stuck. I don't know how to contribute because I felt like the only way I can contribute is just keep contributing in Ortelius, right? Yeah.
No,
So it was
I
tough.
understand. I find the same thing. Yeah.
That's just my honest feedback. I don't know how everyone
I,
else feels about that.
I
Yeah.
wonder if we just need to have more focus on platform engineering um, and AI versus the traditional pipeline stuff. So, in other words, maybe a platform engineering SIG or an AI SIG, something like that. That would, and we could do it within Ortelius. We don't have to go out
Yeah.
to the CD to the wider CDF, but I think it would be helpful to go into the wider CDF, kind of
Mm.
like how the cybersecurity group came about. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, with Kate and
yeah,
Tracy, yeah.
yeah.
Well, that makes
I think
sense.
that may be a path to fix it for the CD Foundation,
Another
or
thing that concerns
or we just go start a
me is
new
funding for the
organization
CDF
called
because that
Platform
seemed to
Engineering.
be that's true. Also, what worries me is the funding. I mean, because it's still quite traditional in the CI/CD space, if you think about Jenkins, you have your manifest file to define your pipeline, and then you build your thing, right? How many companies in the future are going to keep funding the CDF when it comes to that traditional style, right? That's what I'm concerned about. That's what I'm just thinking in the future, right?
Yeah, been seeing that come for a while. It's headed down the road. I mean, that's why I was excited about the CD events because I thought maybe we can, I guess,
Mm,
blur the line, right? Get rid of that
yeah,
idea of the manifest and put it into an event listener, which could obviously
yeah,
be an MCP server
yeah,
for CD events.
yeah.
Um,
But Ortelius is very well positioned, in my opinion. We've moved in the right direction as a community, to be honest.
Uh,
And I think we
what
had to go that way. Yeah.
where does like Open Tofu live? Is that CNCF world?
yes, OpenTofu is in CNCF.
Yeah,
Most of all the projects actually are in CNCF. You know,
yeah.
the OpenSSF does have a handful of projects which we've tried to elevate with the CI/CD cybersecurity SIG, but for the most part, all of the platform engineering tools are in CNCF, including like Backstage, any of those tools that would be
Mm,
considered platform engineering.
Yeah, because
yeah.
that would be a big plus would be to get like HashiCorp into the CDF, but if they're focused so much on the CNCF, they're not going to move anywhere.
Well, it's in the name,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's continuous
Uh,
delivery, and people think of continuous delivery as Jenkins
yeah.
or Harness or something of that sort.
Yeah, because they also want to get people on board, right? And then you go to the pricing page and it's like, whoa, it's not cheap, right? I'm not saying it should be
No,
cheap. It's quite a lot of money. And yo, I don't, I just finding out there where I'm working, it's like everything's super tight when it comes to budget or spending anything, right? To try,
yeah,
and I'm like, how do I approach people to actually convince them that this is a worthwhile, which it is, I mean, there's a great bunch of people, really amazing people, but how do you convince? I don't know how to bridge that gap, to be honest. How do you bridge that gap to get someone to commit? Yeah.
I
I know
think
South African companies couldn't do it, right? It's too much for them. It's the exchange rate is not in there. It's just so against them, right? So that's another problem, right?
right.
I think the way
Yeah.
to do it is to get a product like Ortelius that gets wide adoption that's new, and
Yeah.
that will get people to support it
Yeah. Those are all just the
financially, I
questions that are
mean.
going on in my head, right? Like financially, how do you keep it afloat? And
Yeah,
futuristically, in terms of knowledge and how we're thinking about CI/CD, are we moving in the forward, right? Telis is doing the right thing and pioneering that path of security
yeah. We
and
start,
implementing AI, right? You can't really get
yeah,
away from it. And then having your security foundation, security SIG with Kate and yourself, Tracy, is like a really good one, right? That's solid, right? It's like cementing Ortelius in that space, right?
yeah. And it's
Mm.
and the effort was to start to highlight the tooling that can be added to our traditional CD pipelines, because even though we're looking at CD as it was at the traditional, as you're calling it, That
Yeah, I don't
those
know.
traditional
Maybe not the best
pipelines are
word.
in most companies, right?
Yeah, I
Most
know.
companies are still using this technology. It's just that
Exactly.
they don't want to enhance it. They want to do something new for all their new projects.
But what concerns me is that companies that don't embrace it are going to get left behind very quickly because newer companies or startups that are embracing faster and more intelligent ways of developing and deploying software in faster manner are going to outstrip them very quickly, especially with AI, right? If you know how to use it cleverly, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But you see, Ortelius, I feel, is well positioned because it complements platform engineering because of its security angle, right? It's very easy to integrate that into your whole software platform back-end orchestrator as being
And
part of the process.
we're working on making that even easier.
Exactly. So I think
Yeah.
that's the right direction, you know.
Well, kudos to you for serving on it. Do you know if it's a 2 year or a 1 year role?
I thought it was just 1 year. I must
Are
say, near
you
the end, I couldn't really be there much because I was working. It's probably the hardest environment I've ever worked in, not because of the technology, but because of the human political factor. Uh, a certain manager who
Yes,
was very
and we
abusive,
understand. Yes.
swearing in meetings and all kinds of stuff. It was
Sounds like
really
you.
heavy, man. No, it was
Yeah, that
heavy.
sounds
Yeah, it was
hideous.
heavy. No, it was hideous. It was like, yeah, make Chernobyl look like a crash. Yeah.
Well, I hope you have
Jeez.
a better year coming up, and I hope that you consider
Yeah.
running again. And if
No,
you
no,
don't
yeah, no.
run, I hope that
I'm
some
looking.
other the
Yeah.
folks on this call would consider running when
Yeah.
those nominations come out. So keep in mind
Yeah.
that it's a really good learning experience, and there's a
Mm,
lot that you can do to offer.
yeah.
Thank you for
The
that.
best. Yeah, it's cool. The best thing was that Ortelius is like way ahead, I think, as a community and where we're going.
I think
Yeah.
we have a pretty active community, to be honest. It's
Yeah.
great,
We're doing the right things, in my opinion. Yeah.
great.
Well,
All
that's
right,
that.
and now I'm sorry, Steve, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think our community um, runs pretty well compared to some of the other uh, communities and stuff. So, um, uh, even some of the new stuff that we're getting into, they have no idea even how to do like group meeting notes for an agenda. It's amazing. Uh, that we are light years beyond other teams that are out there doing work in a collaborative way across the world. We've done a lot, so I'm impressed with all of you guys. So,
I am too.
all right, sorry.
So also in January, we started the CI/CD Cybersecurity Special Interest Group, which is part of the CD Foundation. It is not a SIG that is specific to Ortelius, but we were instrumental in pulling it together. And Kate, thank you so much. She stepped up to be the chairperson of that group. We have actually released the first version of the guide. There's work to be done on it this year. Before the end of the year, I've got some updates I need to make on it. But I think we've done a pretty good job of defining the secure software development framework. I think next year we have to focus on two things: making the cybersecurity SIG a project, so elevate it to a project status, and also work on there's another framework that we should include. Now I can't think of it. It's a NIST framework that there's mappings that's been done by the OpenSSF between the secure software development.
Maybe.
Probably the CRAE, yeah, the Cyber Security Resilience Acts, which is what the Europeans have to follow. So we need to pick another one and start mapping and start adding the same kind of information for another framework. Kate, do you have any comments you want to make about your experience?
You know, and again, not to be negative in any way, but I think we need to, what I see coming down the, this pipeline is we're not ready for all the cybersecurity issues that are happening with the AI. Like using somehow we need to get ahead of this, especially because at least the administration in the United States doesn't have any guidelines around this. And I think it would be helpful to have a nonprofit group. If I were thinking, ahead of how to do something, and I really think we need to get ahead of putting guardrails around around like if we're trying to do something with this CDF, I think it'd be really helpful to lean into AI and the vulnerabilities there that will exponentially grow, and how we can do something. And I think in so doing, we'll make this group very relevant.
So, Kate, are you thinking about security from like a prompt AI prompt perspective? You know, how secure are your prompts, or security from like a AI agent, more like at the infrastructure level, or
I,
both?
I think, you know, I think the first, from a prompt level, like we really need to understand, because what we have seen are these LLMs being used to launch attacks, and I think we have to look at the code. They have some really interesting things that they're doing and trying to. I don't know if you saw Project Alice. Have you guys seen Project Alice with IBM by any chance?
No, not yet.
Where you have in how they're trying to review code within the LLMs. And I started to look at that. I thought, well, this is actually pretty interesting, pretty cool. But what can we do to make sure that the kind of coding that is coming out of this? So, anyway, I'm going to start to go off here. I mean, I come from a networking perspective. And when I start to think about application, like when I go back to like the very beginnings of, the problems that we have and how we've seen them all before, I really am actually coming around to, wow, application really is a key that we need to look at. And I think it encapsulates so much. I mean, even AI, S bombs. I mean, I think we really need to jump 10 blocks ahead in order to quickly get and embrace what's happening with AI and do guardrails, because we have a lot of problems. We have people who don't understand, LLMs and all the vulnerabilities that are being introduced. And I think we need to help people. I think we need to help with guidelines and policies, because I think that all that kind of stuff is not even in talking points within administration. And I think if we don't get some guidelines and some trying to enforce policies and trying to really have our government look at this, I think we are to blame, because we know better. And we've been down this road before. Gen Xer, man, I've been doing this since, early 90s. So I think it's a lot. So if I'm looking at this, I think we need to do a lot.
I would agree. We have a lot of work to do. And maybe what we start out with is maybe we can have a discussion with that SIG about looking for what guidelines may already be out there, because I do know that there are some open source AI security groups that are out there. They're starting to work on guidelines. And maybe we, at minimum, start finding them and publishing them in the guide. And maybe we can reach out and start having a conversation with them.
Yeah, that's kind of what my roundabout question was basically, where do we start? And I think what you guys have come up with, it sounds like a good first step.
Yeah.
Well, kudos, Kate, for taking this on. And I'm so glad that you're still interested in it and want to continue with it, because we need your guidance and your expertise in the area. You're the perfect candidate for this role.
Oh, well, honestly, thank you.
Then we had in May, we did our Secure Chain Con, and we actually had a really good turnout. I was pretty happy about it. We had some really good presenters that we've never met before. We had Yuri from who does cloud modernization for Google, all the way to Daniel, who is the co-founder and CTO of Scribe Security. So I thought we had a good time, and it was great talking to John Willis about AI and the direction that the team's going. We had a kind of a nice just chat conversation for everybody to just kind of touch base and say, hey, what do you think about this architecture? And we continued on that journey. So thank you everybody who helped out with Secure Chain Con. And then we began the development of an MCP server with Utkar Sharma kind of leading the way, and Jing documenting it and learning it and understanding as much as she could about it. There is our MCP server blog that you can take a look at. If you haven't read it, it kind of talks about what we're doing. Oops. And is Utkar on? Hey, Utkar, you want to say anything about your work on the MCP server?
Yes. So I started with like pretty basic, but then I had to do like a couple of iteration because I found like because basically if you want to create a bot, right, you can either like simply create a Python script and connect with LLM, and that will also serve a kind of bot, right? But the problem we were facing, the problem statement that we had, I had to think ahead of that to create something that can generate some a good objective out of the problem that you're facing. um, I'll show you a quick glimpse of what I've done so far. Can you share my screen? Are you guys able to see my screen?
Not yet.
How to get this? Oops.
You should be able to. I said allow.
Okay.
There it comes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can see it now.
Okay. So from like simple chatbot to creating this middle layer chaining cortex based application. So this act as a human basically, and this is like a AI agent, but this has a like brain, which is like mm, a kind of memory, and also has a state which suggests like what all options you have at at some point. It's similar to how if you have to walk, you have like four directions, and accordingly based on the objective you choose like which way you have to go ahead. um, so and the other thing that um, I think we were discussing something about guardrailing, all those things. This architecture can be easily guardrailed. We have like control over which like configuration based control, like what type of permissions we want to give this agent to perform. Let's say there are hundreds of tools available, even if you are using like 3 or 4 MCPs. So there is a possibility he can try to run some bash commands that is not good for a particular server. So we can easily add a guard railing as of now to have like a good control over our problem statement. I have added already a guardrail to like not try to look for a lot of places for a couple of package managements. Basically in Golang we have like challenge where there are like system libraries, system dependencies, which are still listed to the dot mod. So all those guard railings are there, and even we can improve this from the security perspective. So this is what I have achieved. I feel like this this can work as a foundation model for achieving any of the tasks that we think. It can even try to like write code, fix code, um, if we want to. So I think this was the idea in the starting, because we also wanted to mitigate the issues in the code and want to update the YAMLs or like GitHub Actions that any other folks have written. So we can do all those things, and plus we can also train this model, not to mention with the data, like the data we saw in the meeting of John Willis, right? So we have like a plenty of data, and the one objective that I was thinking from the starting, how to utilize those data. So I see it now, um, a way to use that, use those data to say like this is the this is the correct syntax and semantics, and you have to follow. So which can act as a good guideline for this model to remediate all those like pipeline in case we want to fix anything.
I think
So
we're going to be, we have Brian's going to help us later this morning. He's going to help us all set up an MCP environment. So I think this is going to be an interesting project for us in 2026. It looks like you've made a lot of progress on it already.
yeah, also on the cost side, when we try to use any agent and we just give a prompt to do some work, and there are, let's say, a couple of MCPs involved there, the cost of solution goes pretty high. So we have to think in a better granularity so that we have a control over the cost as well. And here, if you see, I'm trying to do all those like cloning repositories, detecting the dependencies. Here, if you see, it will also, yeah, this is the repeated task, and it identifies itself how you want to test a particular solution. And if I show you, sometimes it looks at the requirement.txt, the other time it will look at the Docker file. It also does look for toml file if there is. So it will look for all the possibilities which are there, because obviously this was our use case, because we also want to identify the base images that we are using in our Docker file, right? Because they might also have some vulnerabilities. The MCP work, I think the brand has worked. So basically this will be integrated with MCP Ortelius, which will feed data to this particular model, which will try to give more, like basically it will try to streamline its operation as a whole, because right now it has like a lot direction, what I feel, with the information that we get from Ortelius. This will be more streamlined, like in terms of where it want to go next.
Right.
Nice.
And for those of you who haven't been watching and haven't been on this architecture calls, this is our road to doing remediation. So we're doing the detection pretty well. So the result will be in using AI to remediate post-deployment vulnerabilities and pushing the high risk and critical vulnerability fixes back into the back into the workflow, so developers know which ones are hitting production and what needs to be fixed fast, and we're going to try to fix it before it gets to them. So, oops. All right, so what else did we do? In June, this is a good segue here, we held a security focus group at CDCon. Kate was there, and I think that I snagged this picture because I don't know if you can see it. The look on my face is like, WTF? What we learned was there was resistance to adding steps to the pipeline. SBOMs are not seen as valuable. Agentic AI is definitely not trusted. And that we have a bunch of work to do if we're ever going to get our traditional DevOps pipelines to be DevSecOps pipelines. If you haven't watched it, after this is over, I will upload all of these slides to a Google Drive so everybody can see them. I would highly recommend watching it. I don't know how well all the questions came across. I tried to repeat them. But yeah, it was eye-opening, folks. Everything that Sasha just described in his journey with being on the governing board, everything you just heard from Eric, you know, to the point that Google does a build, their platform engineers are doing builds, is happening. I almost want to say DevOps is going to get replaced by platform engineering. I don't know where it's going, but it kind of feels that way to me. And this was a really eye-opening hour. We had probably close to, I think I counted about 60 people in the room, which was the most attended session that we had. We had people go out and bring their lunches in. It wasn't even on the calendar. We just kept telling people we were going to have this talk. And people showed up and they had things to say. They really did. It was super, super insightful. Kate, do you want to say anything? You were there. You want to say anything about it?
Yeah, I agree. It was it was shocking with it was almost, and correct me, Tracy, but I almost feel like people were sort of like at a place to grumble, but not to have really any answers. I mean, they just sort of wanted to vent. I mean, it was almost like people were like a little bit like edgy, and it was, how, S-bombs are bad. And then I felt like you would ask pointed questions and it would be like, they would sort of go off on something else. I mean, it's very almost closely related, but people just seem to be like, S-bombs, they had a lot of opinions.
They were very resistant and somewhat frustrated. I feel like they were a group of people that were feeling threatened.
Yeah,
in a way.
That's a good assessment. It was surprising.
I was so surprised by it. I really, really was.
Because they didn't really have solutions. It was more like, I'm going to vent, I'm going to dump on what I think about S-bombs. Even when you brought up how positive, like how this could really help and why this is needed, there was like a pushback as to like, yeah, but type of thing,
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it was hard to tell if they were just overworked or the sense I got was their CI/CD pipelines are so fragile that they don't want to go anywhere near them, and just keep it running, just keep it limping along the way they have it now is kind of the feeling I got.
And maybe that is why when Eric talked about it, he's like, there's a CI part, right? And then there is their CD part, which is on the other side of the wall, so to speak, in the platform engineering side. And they're the ones that are adding the security tooling. It's not the CIC, the DevOps engineers.
Right.
Sasha, do you find that in your platform engineering jobs? Are they asking for you to put more security on and more guardrails at the platform side, at the
Platform
infrastructure side?
engineering security is not a gate you go through. It's from the word go right to the end. It's baked in. It's part of the process. It's not like an afterthought. It's not something you skip because it's too hard to do or it's too much work. Yeah, it's baked in.
So I find it
has to
interesting because many of the tools that the OpenSSF are creating are really command line tools that are used shifting left.
Okay.
So they have to be added in my world, they have to be added into the CI process in some way. They're not,
Yeah.
and I think it'd be interesting to take a look at the tooling that the OpenSSF has and see what tools would be considered develop or infrastructure level tools.
Well,
I have a feeling that most of them are developer tools.
I personally think the idea of shifting left and making the developers do more and the operations and platform engineering do less is no longer a good move. I think we should be shifting right. And like Eric was saying, you put this stuff into the pipeline, relieve the developers from dealing with it, and let the developers just develop code and develop good code instead of having them deal with all the vulnerability management, all that stuff on top of their daily work. And I think that's what's happening, why SBOMs haven't been adopted, because the developers aren't going to go into their pipelines and add SBOMs if they think it's a waste of time. Because
Yeah,
that's where it's ending up, is the developers have to do it instead of it just being baked into the whole process from end to end.
Yeah.
and as Steve, you and I have spoken so many times, why aren't SBOMs just part of the compilers? I mean, that's where it should be done in the first place. So
Yeah, if you're going to push it left, push it into
push
the
it all the way. Yeah.
push it all the way into the compiler tools. So you kick out an SBOM by the compiler by default.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sasha, what do you got?
I think what I'm going to say is echoing what Steve said, but I have this theory over also through my few years of experience is that anything for a developer that is outside of actually writing the code to make the great product that that company has them focused on is operational overhead. So I think that aligns with Steve, what Steve's saying. Anything, even for me, pushing a commit in Git is an operational overhead because you're not writing code, you're just pushing your code, right? Having to think of a best practices commit message is operational overhead. I actually have, because companies or business leaders, I feel, are expecting us to move faster and faster and faster to get their product out to market. I've used AI to do best practices commit messages now. I've got a hook, basically, for example, and I just go AI push, and it does it for me. It knows if it's a chore, it knows if it's a feature, it knows if it's a piece of documentation. So that's just my take on it. So I think that does that align with you, Steve? Is that what you were saying?
Oh yeah,
In
definitely.
a sense.
And I've done the same thing with the
Okay. Because that's what I think.
yeah, I've done something similar where I have uh the AI document functions for me. It comes up with something
Yeah,
that's very similar to what I would type in.
exactly.
You know,
Actually, better than me.
this function returns an int, you know,
Yeah,
and the
exactly.
AI can do the same thing. What do you got,
Exactly.
Ukarsh?
Uh, I wanted to ask Tracy, like when people say to you they don't trust AI, is it related to AI in DevOps or DevSecOps, or in general they don't trust AI?
In this discussion in particular, they didn't trust AI to run their workflow. So they may not trust an MCP server. They want they want control over their workflow files, their pipeline files. And it didn't surprise me altogether, because when we started Open Make software and started telling developers you didn't have to code a make file, many times they threw us out of the building. They're like, no, that's our specialty. That's what we are. We're like, we're shoemakers that are making perfect shoes. Why would you want to have something else do it? Their job was wrapped around it. So while they said they didn't trust it to manage their workflows, what I read into it is they didn't want to let go of their workflows and have something else that did it better and more automatic.
Yeah, why I was asking this question, because agents are not like a new thing. So they were there before. Even like my first company that I worked in 2019, that was AI ops based product, and they were resolving incidents, triaging incidents before that incident being performed, like being occur. And that product in 2020 itself, got into Forbes ranking in like 100 products in the product category. So I believe it's not about trusting. It's about, thinking of a solution that would work for a particular problem. Um, because obviously these AI agents have already proved themselves. Maybe it might be like a new domain where we want to, think of, what all problems we might face. But, rather than complaining, we should, try to find out what is the solution to that.
So after I went to this, I did a call with TechStrong TV, and at the same time as CDCon, there was a platform engineering conference. And Alan Schimmel went, and I said, "What was it like?" And he said, "Well, Tracy, let me be honest with you. I felt really old." And I laughed and I said, "Well, I went to CDCon and felt really young." The point being is that I believe that our population in the DevOps are a retiring population, and they don't want to deal with anything new. And that's really how I felt about it. Yeah, Brian?
Yeah, a lot of comments, but I'd say on that, I think what I'm seeing as I'm working with the younger workforce is some of us who were at the front end of establishing DevOps practices, it was very bespoke. You did very much sort of hand roll your pipeline. The success of that movement is when we look at new CS practitioners, new platform engineers. They much more look at it as a commodity process. They're not focused on it. It happens automatically in GitHub. It's, et cetera, et cetera. So then therefore this idea of sort of handing it off to AI is a much shorter leap for them, right? So yeah, I think there's resistance, there's fear, there's arguably some justified suspicion of handing all of your work over to AI. But I also think for some of us that were at the front end of the DevOps, CI/CD, and platforms op revolution, um, uh, we're surprisingly bearing the fruits of our success, and that's that other people don't think about it anymore.
Yeah, no, they don't. They don't. And it's really just a natural evolution of what we've done in DevOps. But I feel like many folks who have so ingrained themselves in some of the tooling and the scripts, it makes it really hard for them to shift. Okay, we're gonna move on. Thank you, Brian. We're gonna move on so that we can get both Brian and Sasha getting their presentations in, because I think both of them are going to be useful. So I'll just run through the last of this. There was a new board elected. Most of everybody stayed the same. But one thing that the new board did was they pushed for us to figure out our adoption problem, which led Steve and I to sit down and really try to sort out what we need to do to improve the onboarding process. And what we kind of came to in the discussions with this team, with the board, and what the research we did was we have to move away from the DevOps pipeline. And I think this discussion we just had confirms that. So really, the new architecture is really intended for anybody on either side of the house to adopt it. But I believe it will be more adopted by platform engineers than it will be by CI/CD pipeline users. So in simplifying the adoption, we're going to be pulling data as a push to the DevOps pipeline pushing data to us. The three areas, the three data points is the Git repo, an artifact repo, and an access a point for the audit logs that we talked about with Eric. So what we're doing is removing the dependence on the CI/CD pipeline or any need for a plugin, because that is just not going to work. If you haven't looked, you can. This is out there for everybody. Steve, you want to quickly put in the chat maybe where they can go to see this? Early on the architecture side, early this coming year, I hope that we can spend some time and everybody really learning this platform. It's going to make it much easier for people to contribute to the front end, even do more graphing and reports. Everything about it is easier and it's much cleaner. This work was done, Steve pulled a lot of this together, but much of the architecture reviews that we did back in 2024 have now been implemented. So I'm super excited about the new release, and we'll hear a lot more about that in 2026. We are going to try to bring down the old version and bring up the new version by sometime in February. We participated in Hacktoberfest. Jean was our star. She worked her butt off. So thank you, Jean. And let's go through the awards. So we all know what these awards are. If you haven't been around, there's 3 levels for ambassador. This is doing outreach, blogs, education, training, being involved in webinars. We have 2 new. We have Eric gets one for his work today, and Christopher Carlson. He is an author. He actually helped work on the blog, How Do You Track and Report Security Compliance? Kate gets a levels up to the gold ambassador level. Congratulations, Kate. Thank you for everything you do. She has worked very hard this year on the CI/CD cybersecurity project. We gave her credit for that since it was initiated by the Ortelius community. It seemed only fair. And I decided all alone that we should give Roxanne one as well. If you haven't worked with Roxanne, she has been quite a supporter of the Ortelius community. She works very hard behind the scenes on updating websites, pulling stuff together that I would not normally be able to do. So I sent her off the gold badge, and I want everybody to acknowledge Roxanne as she's our rock star, and she does quite a bit of work behind the scenes that nobody knows about. And then we have the champions. Champions are people who do coding, pull requests, documentation, open issues. They're everybody who attends the architecture calls, might be working on architecture documentation. We have 2 bronze champions. I don't know who IT Socialist is. I hope that we meet IT Socialist because they're actually quite busy in Git. They work on several different projects. And then Idris Kulubi, he's from Nairobi. I reached out to him on LinkedIn to thank him. But if anybody knows this individual, please invite him to our meetings. And then Jean. Jean, she was a rock star this year. She actually was a champion in 2024, and I didn't catch it. So she jumped from silver all the way up to gold, and it was much of the work she did with the MCP stuff and work she did on Hacktoberfest. So we have 3 legends: Arvin, Sasha, and Utkarsh. Utkarsh was our first winner of the Gold Legend Award, then Sasha, and then Arvin. And Arvin has changed so much since we first met him. And I look at that picture, I'm like, where's that college kid? He's all grown up. And thank you, Jing. And Jing probably saw her emails come through, but she is our first woman who has achieved the level of Gold Legend recipient. So we have 4 of you now. And I thank all of you for the hard work that you've done, because it's been amazing. And working with, women in open source, we're an anomaly. So I want to say thank you to both Jing and Kate for their hard work on this. And Elizabeth, I know you're on. We would love to see your face up here in a year's time. And if you want to work on MCP work, that's a really good way to build your points. And just a reminder who our namesake is. I always say give a nod to Abraham Ortelius, who created the first world atlas based on a very open source kind of format. And that's basically what we're doing, is we are mapping where to find packages in endpoints.